Okay, so in this video I'm going to have a look at the cosine rule. And this is a rule we can use to find the angles and side lengths of triangles. So if we have a triangle, for example, this one here, and let's say this is A, angle A or vertex A, this is B, this is C. Opposite A here we've got small a, we've got small c, we've got small b here. These are the lengths of these sides. So we can say that a squared, that's small a, this length here squared is equal to this length here, which is b, and we'll square that, plus this length here, c, we'll square that, minus twice the length of b times the length of c, and then the cosine of the angle a. So this is our cosine rule here. Now, if you look at this, you can see that this particular side here and this particular angle here, you need to note the position of these two in the formula. So this side here is on its own on the left hand side of the formula, and the angle that we're getting the cosine of is the angle opposite that particular side. That's here. So they're at both ends of the formula. Okay, so let's have a look at particular examples how we use this cosine rule. So in the first case I'm going to use it to find the length of a side. So let's do that. So let's take a fairly basic example. Let's take another triangle here, and we're going to say this angle here is 60 degrees. I'm going to say this length here is 5, it can be 5 centimeters, 5 millimeters, whatever you like. This is 4, and we'll call this length here A. Okay, now using the cosine rule, you must have, in order to find the length of a side, you must have the other two sides, and you must have the angle enclosed by those two sides. If you don't have, say this 5 was over here and the A was down here, you can't use the cosine rule in that particular case. You must have the two sides and an enclosed angle to find a third side. So let's do that. Well, remember what I said earlier about side and the angle. So the side you're looking for here must be opposite this angle here. So this is the side I'm looking for, and we do have the angle opposite, so that's perfect. We have the other two sides, so everything can go in here on the right hand side, and we can work out what this side here is. So let's do that then. Let's put in the information. Well, we have a squared, we'll say that's the side we're looking for, is equal to b squared. Now b can be either of those two sides in this case. We're putting b and c on this side of the equation. So let's say b is 4, so we're going to say b is 4 plus c then is 5 minus twice b, which is 4, doesn't really matter in this case, so it's 5 here. And then we want to get the cosine of the angle opposite this particular side here, so that happens to be 60 degrees. We have that, that's perfect. Now we have everything in this equation except for one unknown here, which is a, so we can work this out. So let's do that. Well, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, here we got 4 5s 20 times 2, which is 40, so that's 40, and the cosine of 60 is 0.5 or a half. Okay, so let's work that out. Well, 25 and 16, that gives me 25, 35, 41. Half of 40 then just gives me 20, that gives me 21. Now remember, this is a squared, so therefore a is the square root of 21. Square root of 21, which is 4.58. Let's say 4.58 to 2 decimal places. So that's centimeters or whatever unit you're using in the particular question. So a here, the distance here of this particular edge of the triangle is 4.58. Okay, so that's the first example finished. Let's have a look at another one. Now you can also use the cosine rule if you have the three sides of a triangle. Three sides of a triangle. So let's take this triangle here. Let's take this length as 8, this length as 5, this length here is 7, and we will try and find this angle here, A, we'll call it A. Okay, so our formula, remember, is a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine cos of a. Now, we want to find a here. We want to find this here. So directly opposite that will be this side here. So this here is what we put on the left-hand side of our equation. So our 8 squared will go here, because remember the angle opposite here is A, and that's going to go here. Okay, so that's the only bit you really need to be careful about here. So B and C then are just the other two sides. So let's say B is 5, that's 5 squared. C is 7, so that's 7 squared, minus twice 5 times 7, and then the cosine of the angle we're looking for here. Okay, so that's it really. That's everything slotted into our formula. That's the bit you really need to be careful about, what you put where. And after that, it's just algebra. It's just a case of manipulating this formula to try and get A on its own. So let's see, 8 squared at 8 64, 5 5's 25, 7 7's 49, and here we've got 5 7's 35, 2 35's 70, and then we've got cos of A here. Okay, so let's just continue on then. We've got 64 is equal to 49 plus 25, that's 74, minus 70 cosine A. Let's take this 74, bring it over here, or subtract 74 from both sides. So here we get minus 10 on this side, we have minus 70 cosine A here. So divide by minus 70, that will give me cosine of A on this side. It's equal to minus 10 over minus 70. Just move this up a little bit, give myself some room, and that gives me the cos of A here as minus divided by minus is plus 1/7. Okay, so we have the cosine of A as being 1/7. So to find A then you just simply do cos inverse. So cos inverse 1/7, that will give me my angle A, and when you work that out you get 82 degrees. Let's say 82 degrees. So now we know what our angle A is. So our angle A here is 82 degrees. Okay, so that's it for the cosine rule really. There isn't an ambiguous case. There isn't an ambiguous case like the sine rule, because cosine is positive in the first quadrant here. Remember, they're all positive, sine, cos and tan, they're all positive in the first quadrant. However, in the second quadrant here, if you have an angle this size here, bigger than 90, smaller than 180 degrees, cosine is negative. Cosine is negative in the second quadrant. So the cosine, the cos inverse of plus 1/7 rather, only has one value, in other words, so for this triangle here anyway, and that's 82 degrees. Okay, so that's it for the cosine rule.